Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something that might hit a little close to home. Have you ever walked away from a conversation with someone and thought, wait, why do I feel worse than before? Or maybe you've had that moment where something amazing happened in your life, and instead of celebrating it, your so-called friend made it weird, distant, icy, or suddenly, they were just gone. Yeah, we've all been there, and we don't talk about it enough. Here's the truth. Not everyone who smiles in your face is in your corner. Not everyone who calls themselves your friend actually shows up like one. Some people are in your life for the wrong reasons. And when you're finally in a season of growth, healing, and self-respect, you start to feel it. The energy shifts, the vibe is off, and that's not you being dramatic. That's your intuition doing its job. What we're not going to do today is pretend that every relationship in our life deserves to stay just because it's been there a long time. Longevity does not equal loyalty. Proximity does not equal support. And friendship, real, deep, honest-to-God friendship, that takes trust, effort, and emotional safety. Without those things, you're not building a bond. You're just filling space with people who don't see you, value you, or pour into you the way you deserve. So today, I want to talk about something we don't call out enough. Fake friends, not in a petty way, not in a burn it all down kind of way, but in a wake up and protect your peace kind of way. Because when you finally stop making excuses for people's shady behavior, you start creating space for the people who are actually meant to be in your life. There are signs, red flags that we feel but ignore. Out of guilt, out of habit, out of fear of being alone. But ignoring those signs doesn't make them go away. It just makes you tolerate relationships that chip away at your joy, your confidence, and your sense of self. So I'm going to walk you through 5 signs of a fake friend that every woman needs to know. And once you see these signs clearly, you don't go back. You stop settling for surface-level connections and start making room for the real ones. Let's get into it. You ever notice how some people suddenly show up in your life the moment they need something? It's like clockwork. They disappear for weeks, months, maybe even years. And then out of the blue, there they are, sliding into your DM, texting you like your best friends, all sunshine and emojis. And at first, maybe you think, oh wow, they remembered me. They must have missed me. Nope. 2 messages later, and it's, hey, do you have time to help me with something? Or can I borrow this? Or could you connect me with so and so? There it is, the ask, every single time. Here's the truth. Real friends don't just show up when it's convenient for them. Real friends show up when you need something. Real friends check in because they care, not because they need a favor. But fake friends, they keep you on the shelf like a tool. And when it's time to fix something in their life, they pull you out, use you, and then put you back like nothing happened. And the worst part, they don't even see it. Or if they do, they don't care. Because it was never about you. It was about what you could give them. This kind of behavior is sneaky, too. It starts small. Maybe they call you because they're going through a breakup, and you're a good listener. So you drop everything, you sit on the phone for 2 hours, you show up for them. And they cry and they vent, and you support them like any real friend would. And then crickets, they go back to their life. You don't hear from them until the next crisis. Suddenly you're their emotional support hotline. But the moment you need someone to talk to, they're ghosting you. They've got excuses, they're busy. They didn't see your message, right? You start to realize that the pattern is always the same. They reach out when they're down bad, and once they've gotten what they need, your time, your energy, your help, they disappear, and you're left wondering, did I imagine our friendship? Because it sure doesn't feel like they'd do the same for you. Spoiler, they wouldn't, because they're not showing up as a friend. They're showing up as a taker, and takers, they'll bleed you dry if you let them. And let's be honest, it's hard to catch at first. Especially if you're someone who naturally gives, someone who cares, someone who wants to be there for others. We don't want to believe someone would use us like that. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you notice that every interaction with them ends with them getting something from you, your time, your ideas, your energy, your contacts, you start to feel it. That gut feeling that says, this doesn't feel mutual. That little voice that whispers, I don't think they'd do this for me. And here's what you need to know. Your intuition is not wrong. It's not you being dramatic. It's not you being petty. It's you recognizing that someone is crossing a line. And they're doing it over and over. And if you're constantly left feeling used, if the friendship feels like a transaction, if they're never there for you, but always expect you to be there for them, that's not a friend, that's someone who's taking advantage of your kindness. And let's talk about boundaries for a second. Because people like this, they don't respect boundaries. The moment you stop saying yes, the moment you hesitate to drop everything for them, the mask comes off. Suddenly they're cold. Suddenly you're selfish. Suddenly they're pulling away, and that's when it clicks. They were never here for me. They were here for what I could give them. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's also the moment you take your power back. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to your time or energy just because they call themselves your friend. You do not have to keep pouring into someone who only shows up with empty hands and a long list of needs. You are not a backup plan. You are not a fixer. You are not an emotional crutch. You are a whole damn person who deserves friendships that feel balanced, supportive, and real. And when you start holding that standard, when you start noticing who only shows up when it benefits them, something shifts. You stop chasing people who were never really there. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop accepting crumbs and calling it connection. Because the truth is, real friendship isn't about what you can get. It's about what you can build together. And you can't build anything real with someone who only shows up when they're hungry and disappears the second they're full. Absolutely, here's a full expansion of the second keynote. They secretly compete with you. Written in a Mel Robbins style voice, real talk, straight to the point, no fluff, just truth that hits. You ever had a friend who can't be happy for you? Like you share good news, something you've been working hard for, something you're proud of, and they immediately find a way to one-up you. You say, I finally got the promotion. And they say, oh, that's great. I just got a raise last week too. You tell them you've been hitting the gym consistently and feeling amazing in your body. And suddenly they're training for a marathon they never once mentioned. You say you're planning a trip to Europe, and now they're thinking of doing Bali, maybe Greece too. Really. This isn't coincidence. This is competition. And it's not healthy, uplifting, cheer you on competition. It's insecurity, dressed up in a fake smile. It's low, key jealousy, hiding behind compliments that don't feel quite right. They're not clapping for you because they're inspired. They're clapping because they feel threatened, and they want to remind you, don't forget, I'm doing well too. That kind of energy is not friendship. That's ego. Here's what happens. You start shrinking. You start downplaying your wins. You get that feeling in your gut like you're bragging, like you're being too much. And you know why that happens. Because they made you feel that way. Real friends don't make you second-guess your joy. Real friends celebrate you so loudly that you don't even think about holding back. But when you've got someone who's secretly trying to stay one step ahead of you, you'll feel it. They're not listening to you, they're calculating, measuring, comparing, thinking, how do I stack up? And don't get it twisted, it's not always obvious. A fake friend who competes with you doesn't come out and say, I'm jealous of you. No, they're sneakier than that. It shows up in micro-reactions, passive-aggressive comments, quick mood shifts when you're the center of attention, sarcastic compliments that sound nice but sting a little. You'll catch it in their tone. The fake excitement, the lack of follow-up questions, the way they pivot the conversation back to themselves every time. These people see your glow, and it burns them not because you've done anything wrong, but because they feel small in their own life. And instead of doing the work to level up with you, they start treating you like competition in a race you never signed up for. And that's the part that stings. You weren't even trying to compete. You were just living your life. But they took it personally. They saw your success as their failure, your joy as their threat, your light as something that made their own dimmer. That's not your problem, it's theirs. But it becomes your burden when you keep them in your circle. When you keep making space for someone who can't handle you shining, and over time, that constant competition, that subtle undermining it chips away at your confidence. You start holding yourself back to make them comfortable. You stop sharing your goals. You stop dreaming out loud. You play small just to keep the peace. And let me tell you something, that is not peace. That is self-betrayal. You need people in your life who clap when you win, even when they're still waiting on their turn. You need people who don't just say, "I'm proud of you," but who mean it deep in their soul. Friends who don't get weird when you level up. Friends who want to see you rise because they know your success doesn't take anything away from them. That's what real support looks like. That's what healthy friendship feels like. Not this fake, tight-lipped I energy that leaves you second, guessing yourself every time you do well. You don't need competition. You need community. You need hype women. You need people who remind you that you're capable of more, not people who quietly resent you every time you grow. So if you've got someone in your circle who turns every celebration into a silent comparison, it's time to pay attention. Because a friend who competes with you is not a friend who's rooting for you. And if they're not rooting for you, why are they still in your front row? Absolutely, here's the expansion of Keynote No. 3. Your success makes them uncomfortable. In that same Mel Robbins truth. Slap, no, apologies tone, straight talk, real feelings and all heart. Let's get real for a second. You can feel when your success makes someone uncomfortable. It's not in what they say, necessarily. It's in the energy, the silence, the subtle way they pull back. You start doing well. Maybe you land your dream job. Maybe you're finally in a healthy relationship. Maybe you're just feeling good in your skin for the first time in forever. And suddenly, someone in your life starts acting. Weird, shorter texts, delayed responses, half-hearted reactions. No more "let's catch up" vibes. Why? Because you're becoming the version of yourself they weren't prepared for. See, some people liked you better when you were struggling. When you were relatable, when you were safe, when your life made them feel better about theirs. But the second you start leveling up, growing, healing, evolving, they get quiet. You post about a new milestone and they say nothing. You talk about how proud you are of something you've accomplished and they change the subject. Or worse, they act like it's not a big deal. Like, "Oh cool, nice," and then immediately talk about themselves. And you're sitting there thinking, wait, did I do something wrong? No, you didn't. You did something right. You're changing, you're growing, you're elevating. And instead of rising with you, they're sitting in their discomfort. That's not your guilt to carry. That's their fear showing up. Fear of being left behind. Fear of their own stagnation. Fear that if you grow, it's going to expose the fact that they're not. So instead of clapping for you, they stay silent. They distance themselves. Or they throw little jabs, little digs, pretending it's just joking. But you feel it land. It's not that they hate your success. It's that they don't know what to do with it. It challenges their sense of identity, their status, their story about how the world works. They're comfortable when you're all on the same level, complaining about the same stuff, dreaming about the someday. But now you're doing it. You're living it, and that makes them confront their own excuses, and not everyone is ready for that kind of mirror. Here's the wild part. You'll start shrinking without even realizing it. You'll dull your shine just a little. You won't share the good news. You'll tone down your joy because you don't want to make them feel bad. You'll avoid talking about things you're excited about because their reactions suck the air out of the room. And that's not friendship. That's emotional manipulation in disguise. A real friend wants you to win, even when they're still figuring it out, even when life isn't perfect for them, because they understand that your success isn't a threat. It's proof that it's possible. A real friend sees your glow and says, "Hell yes, let's go." Not "must be nice." A real friend asks, "How did you do it? Tell me everything." Not "Oh, I heard about that already." Like your achievement is old news. You see the difference? Let me be clear. If your wins make someone pull away, that's not your person. That's not who you take into your next chapter. Because if they can't celebrate you now, they're definitely not going to celebrate you later when the wins are even bigger. If someone is only comfortable around the version of you who's struggling, insecure, or doubting herself, that's not love, that's control, that's fear, that's projection, and look, it doesn't mean they're evil. It means they're human, insecure, unhealed. Maybe their discomfort isn't malicious, but that doesn't mean you have to make yourself small to keep them comfortable. Your job is not to manage other people's emotional reactions to your growth. Your job is to keep growing anyway, to keep rising, to keep celebrating your wins with the people who clap with their whole chest. So the next time you catch that awkward silence, that forced smile, that "oh, must be nice" energy, remember this: your success isn't too loud. Their mindset is too quiet. Keep shining. Absolutely. Here's the full expansion of Keynote No. 4. You feel emotionally drained after spending time with them. In the same Mel Robbins style delivery, sharp, real, with that inner truth you feel in your gut when you hear it. You know that feeling when you hang out with someone and afterward, you're just exhausted. Not physically, not because you stayed out too late or talked too much. It's deeper than that. You feel like someone just sucked the energy out of your chest. You're mentally tired, emotionally tapped out. And the worst part, you can't always explain why. You just know that after being around them, you feel heavier, duller, like your light dimmed a little. That's not a coincidence. That's your body picking up on emotional imbalance. And it's usually a sign you're dealing with someone who takes more than they give. Someone who offloads all their mess on you without asking how you're doing. Someone who dominates the conversation with complaints, drama, or self-pity. And even if they're not outright toxic, the energy they bring, it drains you. Let's talk about this because it's sneaky. A lot of these people don't come off as bad friends. They might even seem like they're being open, vulnerable, just venting. But here's the difference. Real vulnerability brings connection. Toxic dumping brings exhaustion. When someone always turns every conversation into a therapy session where you play the unpaid therapist, that's not vulnerability, that's emotional labor you never agreed to, and it doesn't stop there. These are the friends who constantly complain about the same things but never take action. You give advice, you listen, you empathize, but nothing ever changes. They're stuck in a loop and they're pulling you into it with them. And after a while you realize this isn't a conversation, this is a drain, this is a one-way energy flow, and the faucet only opens from you to them. You start dreading the phone calls. You hesitate to answer the texts. You go out with them and count the minutes until you can go home and decompress. And still, you feel guilty for feeling that way. You tell yourself, well, they're going through stuff, or maybe I'm just being sensitive, but you're not. You're just running on empty because someone has been taking and not pouring anything back in. And listen, friendship isn't always 50/50 all the time. Sometimes you carry more. Sometimes they carry more. That's normal. That's human. But with a draining friend, it's never balanced. It's always you showing up, listening, fixing, supporting. And rarely, if ever, them doing the same. It's not mutual. It's not reciprocal. And your body knows it, even when your brain tries to justify it. Here's another sign. After spending time with them, you don't feel uplifted. You don't feel inspired. You don't feel seen or heard or appreciated. You just feel tired, maybe a little annoyed, maybe a little resentful, but definitely not refreshed. That's a huge red flag, because the people in your life should fuel you, not drain you. They should light something up in you. And if every time you walk away from someone, you feel like you need a nap, a detox, and a week of silence, that's your nervous system screaming, this is not safe. This is not healthy. This is not your people. And over time, this drains your spirit. You start second guessing yourself. You start feeling less motivated, less positive, more anxious, more tired. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it's there. And if you don't deal with it, you'll keep running on fumes. You'll keep being the strong one, the listener, the fixer, the one who has it together. And meanwhile, you're not getting the support you need. Here's what you need to hear. You are not a dumping ground for other people's stress. You are not a life raft for people who refuse to swim. You are not selfish for noticing how someone makes you feel. That is called self-awareness. That is called boundaries, and boundaries are what keep your energy sacred. You deserve friends who fill you up, who laugh with you, dream with you, cry with you when it's real, but never make you feel like you're just there to hold their mess. And when you start choosing those kinds of connections, everything shifts. You start protecting your peace like it's priceless, because it is. Absolutely. Here's the expansion of Keynote No. 5. They gossip about others. And probably about you too. In that classic Mel Robbins style, no sugarcoating, just straight truth and real world clarity that hits where it needs to. Let's just call it like it is. If they're talking about other people to you, they're talking about you to other people. Period. That's not a guess. That's a guarantee. And deep down, you already know it. Because the moment someone starts pulling up a chair and dishing out all the messy, personal details about someone else's life, especially when that someone isn't there to defend themselves, your gut knows. You feel that little twinge, that mental note. If they're saying this about her, what are they saying about me? Exactly. Here's the truth. Gossip isn't harmless. It's a pattern. It's a habit. And it's almost always rooted in insecurity. People who constantly gossip do it to feel powerful, included, or relevant. They're not actually looking to connect. They're looking to control the narrative, to be the one in the know. And more often than not, they use other people's business as currency. They trade it for attention, validation, or status. And when you're around someone like that, you are never safe from becoming their next story. Let's talk about how this plays out. At first, it might feel kind of bonding. Like you're on the inside, like you've been let into the secret club. They whisper, "Don't tell anyone I told you this." And now suddenly you've got the tea, you've got the inside scoop. And maybe you laugh, maybe you lean in, maybe you think, "Wow, she tells me everything." But over time, it starts to feel icky. You realize she tells everyone everything, especially when it's not her place to share it. And it's not just personal drama, it's everything. She tears down someone's looks, criticizes their relationship, mocks their goals, talks trash behind backs and hugs people to their face like nothing happened. And you start noticing the pattern. There's always a target. And there's always an audience. And she always positions herself as just concerned, or keeping it real. But it's not real, it's petty, it's mean, and it's exhausting. The most dangerous part. Gossipers are great actors. They know how to seem loyal. They know how to make you feel like you're the exception, like you're the one person they'd never talk about. But listen to me. If someone gets a thrill from dissecting other people's lives, they're not going to draw the line at yours. You are not special to someone who lacks integrity. You are just next in line, and if you've ever had that gut check moment where someone else tells you something about your life that only that friend knew, or you hear your words twisted in a conversation you didn't have, that's your wake-up call. That's when you realize, it's been me this whole time too. They were smiling to your face and selling your business behind your back. And honestly, that betrayal hits different because you trusted them. You believed you had something real, and all along, they were collecting your vulnerability like ammunition. So what do? You stop feeding the fire. You stop entertaining the gossip, because the second you participate, you co-sign it. You give it permission. And if you keep sticking around someone who makes a sport out of trashing other people, you better believe your silence is being seen as approval. And when you finally draw the line, when you stop laughing along or start changing the subject, they will notice, and you'll probably become the next target. But you know what? That's okay. Let them talk. Because what they say behind your back says everything about them, and nothing about you. You don't need friends who make conversations feel like landmines. You don't need connection that's built on someone else's downfall. Real friendships are built on trust, not tea, on support, not slander, on depth, not drama. And if someone has to bring others down to feel close to you, that's not closeness. That's manipulation. That's insecurity disguised as bonding. You deserve people who protect your name when you're not in the room, who speak life into you and others, who don't need gossip to feel connected, because the relationship is real enough without it.